Hello. Hey.
Hello.
I assume that Ben will join since he was active in pull request reviews recently. So you should probably wait for him. I hope he can make it. Here he is.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. How are
you guys
you?
all doing?
Morning.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Hello.
Last reviews before the meeting starts.
Yep.
So Andrea, do you intend to share or should I share or?
Yeah, I can share. Let's see. Hopefully
It's...
this works fine. I'm on a hotel Wi-Fi, but seems to be okay, I hope.
Is it KubeCon now or is it?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
I'm here this week in California for the Linux Foundation Member Summit.
Oh.
So it's mornings for me this time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's get started. So welcome everyone to the CDEvents working group. My name is Andrea Frittoli, my pronouns he, him. I work for IBM and I'm in PhD this week. And feel free to sign yourself into the notes. Just share the link on the chat. Right. So we don't have any new attendee today. So before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone of the new meeting schedule. As you're all here, you're probably aware of it. So we settled on having a meeting every Monday. Hopefully that keeps it more simple to remember. We always have the same day, the same time. And until summertime finishes, which is going to be soon, I guess, till the end of the month. It's going to be 3 p.m. UTC and then 4 p.m. UTC through winter. And we still have an APAC friendly meeting not exactly once a month, once every 4 weeks. And I guess the first one would have been today, but we have no agenda. And so the next one will be November 27th. And it will only take place if folks in that time zone are interested to join. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, so topics for today, I put in the agenda connecting events, which I think is definitely one of the things we want to talk about. Updates on the SDK, didn't have much else to discuss, but please add to the agenda if you have other topics to bring up. Oh, tickets proposal. Nice. Thanks. Shall we start with the connecting events first? Does it work for everyone?
Yeah. I think for connecting events, I got some feedback this morning. So thank you both, Andrea and Emil, So I think we're at a good place now where I can update the JSON schema. So that's going to be the plan for today, is get all the schemas updated, make sure that things are properly documented as well. I don't know, or like also add the examples and whatever else that is required. And then kind of find some solid ground on the discussions that kind of happening right now on the GitHub PR, which one of them right now is just understand the use case for fan out, fan in. I'll respond to you, Emil, to show you like what I'm talking about, and then kind of go from there. And then so yeah, so making pretty good progress on that. So I think with the new updates for the JSON schema as well as the examples, it'll also make it a little bit more concrete and easier to, I think, visualize or understand. You know, with having those, especially those examples, I think will be really, really nice. So yeah, so that's kind of like where we're at with the connecting events.
Do you intend to do it for all events at the same time, or would you just do some events and then we discuss, or what do you think? Would it be easy enough just for all events?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them all. And then if we have comments, I will update just one event and then iterate on that one event. And then because I feel like that will be a lot easier rather than just doing one. And then, you know, because I still need to do them all anyways. So so at least doing them all, I got most of the way there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Sure.
Sounds good. So and thanks a lot, Ben, for driving this forward.
Yep.
So I think where is it? Core? Is it core? No, is it? That's spec.
For? Oh,
yeah. So I think for the spec in this document.
Oh, for the required context attributes. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So exactly. So I think here, this is the context. So we will have a new change ID here, right? So I guess it would make sense to have the change ID here and then linking into the other document that you have been working on, the spec, since we have all the nice description there already. Or is that
Okay.
how you plan to do it, or?
I was probably gonna follow this standard a little bit. I don't, because I like consistency. I'm a huge proponent of consistency. So I'll probably link to the doc as well, but have a nice small description in the description field there. I always found that the less clicks people have to do to find all their information, the better. So so I can keep at least the description a little bit, you know, as simple as possible. And then if they are more curious about implementation or certain caveats or just overall structure, they can always go to that doc and that'll be linked as well. Very similar to version. Yeah, it says for more details, see versioning. I think that's perfect.
Okay, sounds great to me. Thanks. Okay, so. Okay, so just add that to the notes. Okay. Any more comments or questions on the connecting events then?
No, I did mention on the PR. So my plan is I'm going to create a mock CI CD system. I don't want to use something like Jenkins or whatnot because I don't know the level of implementation for CDEvents is. So I just want to demonstrate how Lynx is going to send and consume events and then what's going to look like on the front end. So my idea was I was going to show this demo to various teams here at Apple but I also didn't want to just restrict it to Apple. So I was thinking maybe, Emil, since you guys already have a system that's very similar to Lynx, you guys would also be a very good company to work with and seeing this demo and seeing if it caters to like all your guys' use cases there. And then I mean, I'm sure you know from the spec, but just kind of get like a visualization, of like seeing like what it would look like from the UI point of view and so on and so forth. If that would be helpful for you guys. If not, I can just find other people as well. So just let me know if that is of interest to you.
It sounds very interesting. So the better I understand your use cases, the better, of course.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
of course, very much appreciated. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then I'll post a message in the Slack thread or in Slack once I got a good working model of all the mock systems. And then whoever's interested, we can set up some time. You can invite whoever, and then we can figure out a good just a good time when to do it. Sound good?
Given the time difference there, would it be possible, I think, to record it instead so people can
Yeah, we could definitely record it as well.
I don't know where you will publish it, but
yeah, so I don't mind doing early meetings. So for example, today I woke up at 3 a.m. So I don't mind. Yeah, so I really don't mind working with the EU folks that might be interested in seeing this at working hours for them. And then of course here at Apple or whoever is in the States, I can also help, like that time is, I'm working at that hour, so it's fine as well. So yeah, so time is not really a big issue for me. But we should definitely record it too, because if we have it as recording and people want to refer back to it, or they want to like share it with someone, they can, right? I think you're muted if you're talking, Andrea.
not muted to Teams, but sorry, Zoom, but it seems you're muted on your client.
Oh, that's what you were doing. I was like wondering why you're clicking up there.
Sorry. So while waiting, Andrea, I saw there is an issue with the DST ending. So in Europe, we end daylight savings time after this week or on Sunday, but in the Americas, you have it 1 week later.
Oh, right,
The
yeah.
question is what we do next week when we have
Yeah.
exited daylight savings time and you're still there. Then we need to somehow manage that. So when is the meeting next week?
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It's just the 1 week, right?
It's just 1 weekend.
Yeah. I think it's 2 weeks from now will be.
Then, or should we try to say which time we should have it? In UTC or whatever.
Right. Um,
So if people would have open the calendar there, the CDF calendar, what time do you see in your local time zone for next week?
So
In the chat there.
Let me find the calendar.
It's in the chat now.
Oh, is it? Cool, cool, cool.
so and 30th.
Yeah, so it's 8 a.m. My time. So that's an hour early.
Next week.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Strange, it looks wrong next week for me as well. Even though
Going noon for me.
Does it?
yeah, we hear us? Yeah, Andre?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So,
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar as
Okay.
well.
Oh, never mind. It doesn't update on the website. Like
maybe the website has a problem.
yeah. So I had to click it and manually look at the details. It's 10 a.m. for me, so it's an hour later.
Okay. Maybe if you shouldn't take all the time of this meeting for this, should we maybe sort it out on Slack instead? And discuss there when to have the meeting or how we should do it.
Okay. Yeah, I need to check because I have another meeting. I think with the current schedule, actually, it overlaps for me with another meeting.
Okay.
But then, and then the following Monday is back to normal. So, yeah.
It would probably be okay for me to have it 1 hour later next week, or that is the. So we switch 1 week later. That's probably fine with me. If you would prefer that. Then. But let's sort it out on Slack so we get the correct times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so right. Let me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move forward. Next topic is ticket proposal.
Cool. Yeah. So me and Sean have been meeting weekly as well as discussing on. So we have a public GitHub PR that me and him have just been talking. Like we just been kind of like brainstorming. So we haven't been writing the proposal, but we did come up with a few interesting questions. The first one is we talked about approvals. And we didn't know whether or not that would be a separate predicate or if it would be part of tickets. Because according to Sean, Sean would probably speak more on this, but it sounds like his his team uses tickets also as like there's an approval step in it as well. As for us at Apple, our approval step is actually in the CD space. So I just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, just to add to that, I guess when I initially proposed this idea, I was thinking, yeah, to use tickets as the approval mechanism because that's how we do it. But thinking about it further, just because we use tickets doesn't mean it needs to be a ticket event. So yeah, the question is, should we think about adding approvals as another event type, whether that's like an event on its own or predicate to other events?
So what would an approval mean really then? Is it that you have verified something, or I mean verified a ticket, or verified an artifact, or verified a test?
Yeah, it's just how we use it internally is that when you do an approval, any sort of approval is some manual step where a person is physically saying this is good to be deployed or something of that nature. But that might not be the only use case, but that's how we use approvals.
Yeah, for us, it's basically a step in our CI/CD pipeline where it goes up to deploys to beta, let's say, and then at that point it needs to pause and wait for like an actual approval from a person saying, yeah, I approve this, and it can go to prod.
Right, so the kind of defining feature is that a human being is involved in making a decision, right? So
Yeah.
So like a approval based on an automated policy would not fit in this category.
I mean, it could technically, but I think what me and Sean were specifically talking about when we're talking about this whole ticket proposal, we're talking more about the manual intervention, but not limited to. The major benefit that I see for having approvals is really good for auditing. Knowing who clicked what is really, really huge. And so, especially like so to kind of give another thing at Apple. So we have this, so I'm sure all companies have this, but we have a prod freeze for specific, times of the year, specifically around stock exchange, right? Like announcing Q1, Q4, and all those like results for revenue and all that. And so we have a prod freeze kind of step, and then in order to deploy, you have to physically get approval from like VP, for instance. And then once you get the okay from them, then there's a two-step process, and then you can click OK. So it's like they give the okay, then you click OK. So it's like a two-step approval process there.
So the only place where we currently have approvals, manual approvals, as part of our CI/CD process is actually on the reviews on the source code itself, really. Well, we could maybe consider the release of something being an approval as well. But we have such a, we don't really have an event for it, unfortunately. But we have that state that a source change is approved, which essentially means that it's reviewed enough. So enough reviewers have seen it, so to say, and approved it. So
yeah,
but I would think that an approval is a predicate on the different subjects that we talk about. So a source change could be approved, an artifact could potentially be approved, the deployment could probably be approved.
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering. So when we were talking about this, I was like, oh, do we have this predicate on all of these events, or do we just do we generalize it and make this a separate event, a separate subject, and then just have that attached to the current thing, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, actually. I have never seen that use case brought up, but sure, why not?
Yeah, Seems reasonable to me as well. It indicates the explicit intervention of a human being to do something. It can be still associated with other events. So if you're using a ticketing system to, or to enter the approval, then you could have the ticketing system sending your ticket event, but also sending the approval event when a special approval is
it could be a manual level.
identified.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it makes total sense to me.
Okay, cool. Okay, so me and Sean will play around with the because we've been discussing quite a few things with ticketing. And so first we identified the ticket states. Like, so let me actually pull up the discussion. That might be easier actually. And
It's
then
in one sense that it's actually the event itself that is approved to be continued automating on or something. It sounds like that. So, I mean, you deploy something, but you don't proceed the CI/CD or CD pipeline after deployment until someone has also approved it. So it really approving the deployment events rather, right?
Yeah. So, but that's what I was wondering is like, would it be easier to have a separate event because that way approvals can just be attached to any sort of subject, or do we just want to add this for each as a new predicate for every event? Because that, in terms of scalability, that's a lot more difficult as opposed to attaching a single event to another to another CD event. But I could be swayed either way. I think both have their pros and cons. But yeah,
I guess in many cases it doesn't really make sense to have approvals of such events. I mean, for example, the pipeline run queued. Why would you need to approve that it was queued? Or
right?
something?
Yeah.
The artifact published, sure, that could be approved, and art or service deploy, or whatever we call it, could also be approved. So I think there are not the majority of the events would make sense to have approvals for, or what do you think?
I would say, yeah, it's definitely a subset. It's definitely a smaller subset than those that are not, right? But the question then becomes like, if there's any sort of commonality between because I'm assuming that most of these are going to have shared some sort of commonality between approvals or states and whatnot. Right. If we change it in one place, we have to change it a number of times. Right. So it's like, it really just comes down to, whatever's easiest, and I think, like I said, I think both are fine. The only issue I have with with having it on the CD event itself is just, it's just harder to maintain. And then especially if you forget in one spot, but you have it for all the other ones, that's harder to catch, right? So, but like I said, it's not a deal breaker either, right? We can definitely add like testing and automation to catch as a best effort for those things, but yeah, but what we can do is me and Sean, because like I said, we just kind of left that up in the air because we were like, oh, we'll see what they prefer. What we can do is come up with pros and cons for both approaches, and then for the next meeting, present that and see what works best with those thoughts. Because like you said, with having it or having them on the actual event too, like, if we never need to add it anywhere else and it doesn't change that often, then it's easy, right? It's just there once, right? So maybe that's not that big of a deal. But if new events come up where they need to now have approval, then having it as a separate event itself becomes a lot easier to manage, and the schema is a lot easier to update, right? So yeah, I can definitely see pros and cons in both, and maybe the next best step is for me and Sean to go back and think of both pros and cons for both implementations. But we just wanted to ask you all if you had a preference, but it sounds like we're still kind of on the fence with it. Sounds like we do agree we need approval. The question is where about do we put it? So yeah.
But to me, it kind of makes sense to have an approval subject, and then like the predicate would then be set, approval set, or approval granted, or something.
Yeah. That's
right?
yeah. I think that would be
And then have it
really
related
nice.
to the actual event that was approved, or the actual whatever that was approved.
Yeah.
I guess then you could record. Oh, sorry. You could record like also the opposite of the approval. Then, if you had like an approval denied, if you had like a subject.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And actually, since we're already on approval, so we discussed like states in the last meeting. So we had declined, in progress, and approved as the 3 states for approvals. And then for tickets, this is one that's a little bit more, that can be potentially more flexible, I think. For the ticket states, we have open or created. Either one I think would work. And then we have in progress and then reviewed. And I see Sean has a commit suggestion as peer reviewed or peer review. So that's another thing. So I think Sean, I think you wanted these to be whatchamacallit, not past tense, right? You wanted them to be more of like what just happened, right? Like, oh, it was approved, or wait, I don't know how.
Yeah, I was just trying to get it to fit in with like the current CDEvents vocabulary, where everything's kind of like
got it.
It was declared that happened.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So yeah, I was just trying to see if like it made sense to use like we were saying, like the ticket states as the predicates, or maybe like just like more what happened. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I get. So
I guess
kind of
ticket
summarize.
ticket created.
Yeah. So one of the major discussions that me and Sean had at the very beginning of this is that originally when we were coming up with just outlining ideas for tickets, we came up with like all the possible states a ticket could be in, right? And then the question became is does a ticket would it have like a dot created, a dot reviewed, a dot in progress, or would it be just ticket and then the state would have the thing that's in it? But the problem, so my issue with that, and I'm more for having a dot created, dot approved, is that you would have to listen for all ticketing events to be able to do something, as opposed to if you have a predicate, you can do certain behaviors without inspecting anything, right? So that's kind of my 2 cents, but I'm, like I said, we want to make this as open and kind of get everyone's thoughts and opinions on this. So, but that's kind of like where we landed is like, when we notice like in CDEvents, everything falls, it's like dot created or dot approved or dot whatever, right? So we wanted to kind of follow that, but what was your guys' thoughts on having these states in the actual CDEvent type itself, or having them as a individual state on a general ticket event?
I haven't thought through the subject really, but I would say just spontaneously that I would like to see like a ticket, probably ticket created and ticket closed, but then in between there we could have ticket updated or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a parameter in that event, we could have the actual ticketing system state or workflow state, because we have several projects ourselves within the same ticketing tool. We use Jira quite a lot, and we use different workflow states names in different projects internally. So there's no one size fits all either for us internally.
That is true.
I think we can't really have predicates dictating the workflow state name, really. But it makes sense to have an event for the ticket being created and maybe closed.
Yes.
But then in between there, if we want to propagate or send notifications on any state change of the ticket, then we could have that as an updated event or something, I would say.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Okay, I'm
Yes.
just.
I think this
running.
the approvals discussion has been very helpful as well. It helps drive where we want to go with tickets.
Yep.
We can separate the two, and we don't need to
Mhm.
solve both problems with tickets.
Yep.
And we can
Cool.
keep the tickets probably more generic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also tend to, I would lean towards saying, okay, predicates describe what happened to the ticket, like open, closed, updated, those kind of things. And we can have a state filled in the data model that describes a specific state the ticket is in. And that can be open, open text, doesn't have to be an enum, but like Emil was saying, that could be customizable, completely open by a certain team. They want to have different states. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so that sounds that definitely answers some of the questions that we had. But yeah, like I said, we've been making good progress. I've been enjoying these weekly meetings with Sean. We both bring a very different approach. Like when we were talking about approvals, at first I was just like really confused, but then once he gave me his use case and he gave me his, it was interesting to see the two different ways of using approvals. But it also makes sense. Like I actually took your use case, Sean, back to my manager. He's like, oh, I like that. He's like, I like having approvals on tickets. So yeah, like it's been really a blast working with Sean. But yeah, I think we're at a place where we can start at least on the smaller portions of the ticketing parts of the proposal soon. We still probably need to answer a few more questions, but we got most of the questions answered from today's discussion here. So that was really helpful. So thanks everyone.
That's great. No, thank you guys for bringing this forward. Really excited to see this happening. I just wanted to mention Owen with a comment on the chat. I don't know, Owen, if you'd like to talk about it directly, or just want me to read your comment?
I can quickly mention it. I don't think it has any significant change to the implementation, just documentation, but it was the definition of approval being a manual element, which I think is true, but you might have an automated system actually contribute to the approval. So our use case is for certain infrastructure changes. It goes through a kind of OPA policy depending on the score that is given. So specifically, if there's deletes to certain systems, the bot can auto approve the change. And if the score is above a certain threshold, it then needs to go to manual approval. So I think that's just really, whenever you within the approval event or how that's modeled, you include who the approval came from, possibly multiple people can approve the same thing. And you could stage you've got two. Step one, so that would just be the bot SP or something similar being included in there. But making sure the documentation around this, when it goes out there, kind of takes into account that use case and it's not just describing it as being for people would be useful.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to add this just to the PR that we have open, Sean, these notes, and then we can kind of go from there. Let's see.
Yeah, we have the same for the approval I mentioned as well before. So our code reviews could actually be automatically approved if the change is small enough or is considered easy enough to just automatically approve. So yeah, we have the same. And I guess that's true for many events. I mean, we have, for example, the test case finished event or those or test suite finished. It could either be a human that has performed the test or it is a machine that performs the test. Regardless, it's the same event that is sent.
That's actually something we've been making use of quite a bit as we've been transitioning some of our manual test system into more of an automated test system, being able to keep essentially our events are identical, but it's just information on the source has changed has actually been really useful for us, at least for tracking our kind of migration to this new approach which we're taking. So that's been one of the big powers of the CDEvent stuff for us is that standardization, regardless of if it was manual automated to being able to include that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thanks for bringing it up. All right. Anything else to discuss about tickets and or approvals?
Not from my end. What about you, Sean? Did I miss anything? Do we have anything else?
No, you did great. I'm good.
All right, cool.
Exciting. All right. I think there is. I just wanted for pull requests. There are a couple of pull requests also about the test set run QJSON and the skip one. I think the skip one will need some minor updates for linting or for the examples. But yeah, if folks want to review those, then we can merge them.
It's just a quick comment on the test suite run queued one, as that was mine.
Yeah.
I think we've got it pending while we look into how we're going to handle depreciations, was kind of where we left it, because it's fixing a typo in the spec, but it would break existing uses of it. I think there was a thing about how do we actually handle depreciations in JSON spec, how do we mark that appropriately? So I think that's just pending that right now.
Right.
Wouldn't that be a version update in this case? Oh yeah. There's the comment right there.
Yeah, so we need a new version. I guess the question was whether to when going from URL to URI, just simply replace URL with URI, or maybe add URI and deprecate URL. But if we wanted to do that, we have not done deprecation of URL yet. So I guess the question was how do we do that? If there's a way we can mark it
got
in
it.
the JSON schema, if it makes sense. Yeah.
So one thing we can do that I'm a real huge proponent of is, so when we create a README or what have you, right? We can say we can mark fields as deprecated and they will have a certain life to them. So basically, let's say after like 2 minor versions or 2 major versions, then that field gets removed. So that will at least give people some knowledge of when something is going to be removed or what have you. And then we can come up with a standard on how we want to actually deprecate or what that might look like. So that's one option. Another one is we go the AWS way, which I'm kind of not a fan of, even though I came from AWS, is that you support everything until the end of time. So you deprecate it, but it's there forever. So that's another option. And then another one is just to do the version bump, and then yeah, you version bump, and then people that take this new version just have to be aware that your URL got replaced with URI. So those are kind of like the 3 options that I'm familiar with. And I don't know if there's anything else or anything in between, but yeah, and I think the one where we say that deprecated fields have some sort of life to them, like 2 major versions and whatnot. This is very standard in a lot of libraries and a lot of frameworks, a lot of languages. Even like Go is a really big one. Kubernetes is another big one. And then even in AWS, Kubernetes, like they only support like the 2 previous versions or what have you. That's because EKS relies on Kubernetes, but Kubernetes also has that same policy that they only support the last 2 major versions. So I'm a little bit more in favor of that one, as that seems to be the kind of new standard that a lot of people are moving towards. I'm not to say that that's the only standard, but it does give people some wiggle room to continue using these fields, and gives them enough room to also make the transition when, if we say, hey, we've deprecated these fields, but it takes 1 year for us to remove it. Now they can put that in their roadmap of when to migrate, right? So that's, I think, a really good benefit there.
So just on this specific pull request, what I did want to say, and I agree they're kind of the three main approaches, and I also prefer generally the kind of keeping a couple of minor ones around. There isn't really a massive urgency on this PR from my view. Like as far as the internal use, at least, we've got kind of a bit of a monkey patch around to use URL one. I'm quite happy to keep this one open for a period of time to use as a kind of a, let's figure out this depreciation side of things. Let's use this as the first example of it. It's not something which is kind of, from my view, has massive pressure in it because stuff which is there works. It's just a typo. So it feels like a good kind of use case for fleshing that out and figuring out what that policy should be.
Yeah, and another thing too is we're not 1.0 yet. So I think it comes with a grain of salt, right? That things are going to be completely stable. So so that's another thing that we can make a consideration is that, you know, maybe we just do a minor version, you know, and just you know, just make the breaking change, you know, but it's completely up to you guys. But you know, it being so early in its life, you know, 0. whatever, people generally they typically know that that things are going to change. So that's also one option. So I guess that's option number 4 that that was also said, is that because we're so early in our life cycle, we can make breaking changes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the policy we have for versions, removing a field would be a backward incompatible thing. So in theory, you would need a new major version. But as you said, because we are still not in 1.0, we said, well, we can just make a minor version. But it would also be a good exercise to use this to define how do we do depreciation or deprecations. So I tend to lean towards option 1. That was what I had in mind as well. I guess one of the questions, just because of my, well, I don't know if this exists, it's supported at all in JSON schema. I wanted to go and check whether JSON schema supports explicitly defining a field as deprecated in the schema, you know, to help, because then you can do things like whenever that field is used by the SDK or something, emit a warning of those kind of things. But yeah, definitely we can do the documentation part. So I think what I need to do is to create an issue to track this, document the different options we discussed, what is missing, and link it to the PR so we don't forget about it like I was forgetting about it already. So
fair enough.
Sounds very good to me as well. I would go for option 1 as well, but let's have an issue on it and sort it out there.
okay, I create a ticket, I'll send a ticket event, and then you can send me the approval event.
Perfect.
Can we get a Slack bot for it as well?
I hope at some point we will have a Slack bot based on CDEvents.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Owen, for bringing this up. Right. Last thing that I had in the agenda for SDK updates, the Java, Jalander has been working on the second part of generating, I didn't mean to open that, generating the SDK from the schemas. So the PR is up. If anyone is interested in reviewing it, please do. I also have to review it, and sorry, I've not done it yet, Jalander. Anything you would like to add on this, on the Java SDK?
No, Andrea, I think I'm waiting on the things to be reviewed. I think this is the initial PR is already approved. I mean, the base concept of generation of CDEvents is approved. This is only to generate different types of events, like following different types of events to generate its subsequent PR. So I think expecting
Great.
for some comments and things.
And thanks for doing that.
And I also reviewed your other PR on the Spinnaker side as well, Jalander, this morning.
Yes, yeah, I got the comments. I'll push those in a minute. So I think
Cool. I think that was the only thing. Once you do that, just let me know. We can approve it and we can get that merged in.
yeah, sure. I have also the front end changes on the deck, Spinnaker deck. So I think what we are talking about on the Spinnaker CDEvents integration PRs. Another PR like for the front end changes that is pending for reviews. I don't have permission to add more reviewers to that even. Like, can you help me to add some reviewers?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I can go ahead and do that. I can't review your front end changes. I barely know like HTML. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to find someone to do that for you. Because yeah, I really don't ever touch front end, but I'll find someone that can.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
So thanks for that as well. The other thing I wanted to mention on SDKs is that as part of Oktoberfest, we have a contributor who's interested in contributing to our Rust SDK. And so far we have kind of like project scaffolding and initial CI being set up. But yeah, if anyone is interested in Rust or wants to contribute to that, feel free to join. Right now it's very early, but yeah, just wanted to let people know that this is starting. All right. And anything else from anyone?
I just wanted to make a quick comment on the SDK, the .NET SDK stuff, which I mentioned in Slack a while ago, and then everything went crazy. So, which is part of the course in life. So we've been using an internal version of the .NET SDK, which was manually created for the last 2 months, and that's been fine. So we've kind of got the structure from there. I'm beginning working on the code generation one this week. It'll probably take 2-3 weeks to get a draft out to kind of get reviews. So I'm hoping let's say a month from now, there should hopefully be kind of first pass of the auto-generated .NET SDK, which I'll be wanting to speak to folk about. There's a couple of guys from my work who are much better at .NET than I am, who are quite keen to be more involved, so they might be able to help with some of that as well. I've kind of picked it up by necessity, not by choice. So we'll see how that goes, but I'll provide an update over the next few weeks on that.
One thing that might be nice too, so maybe this could be something that either Andrea or Emil could do that is more of just metrics. It might be nice to look at what all the open source tooling like CI and CD languages, what languages are written in, and then kind of gather a list of that. And then that can kind of sort the priority of like, you know, what SDKs you want to create next, basically. I imagine that shouldn't be too hard to figure out just by going to GitHub. It, you know, it just shows you the language. So, but it might be nice just to know, you know, like, oh, you know, like most of CI is written in Java or most of CD is written in Go, for instance, right? Might be nice to know.
I guess the place to go would be maybe the CNCF landscape and look at the, isn't there a CI? No, maybe there isn't. Yeah, continuous integration. There's a CI/CD box there. So just looking at all those events in the CI/CD box in CNCF landscape makes at least one.
Yeah.
Direction.
But I guess until now, I mean, development has been driven by need.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, Tecton is written in Go.
Yeah.
Jenkins,
Well,
Spinnaker in Java.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the reason why I bring it up is because I have a feeling CDEvents is going to start catching some steam pretty quickly, especially we're at the point where we're already looking at how to start writing some of these tools with, like, for instance, like with the links proposal, like how to start integrating. So we're already starting to think about writing these, which is it's going to be sometime this year. So the next like 4 or 5 months that we have left, like we're going to start writing these tools, right? And it might be nice to know like what languages, you know, like for instance, like if we start writing this in Rust and Rust just started getting made, you know, that's not a good choice, right? But you know, since you have Go and Java, that makes it a really obvious choice. But while saying with that though, that's because most of our services are written in Java. Well, our CI is written in Go, right? But I can definitely see, because we're not going to be the only team that uses CDEvents, right? That they might be like, hey, we use we use Rust, or actually another one would actually be we use Swift. Like that's probably going to be a big one that comes out of this of these next few meetings that I have with people. Is Swift is used heavily here at Apple, so yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting. So yeah.
On a kind of related thing, something I'd like to do, probably not in the next week or two, but at some point soon, is kind of take 5-10 minutes just to talk about our use case at IGS, as I think there is some overlap there. What's being described there, we've got internal teams using CDEvents. Our implementation is based on a kind of pub sub event system with Dapper, which we publish the events to, and then it's consumed by various tools along the chain in order to do things in reaction to events. So it could be interesting to kind of just talk briefly 5-10 minutes about what we're kind of doing there, as I think there's some exciting stuff coming up which is related to it, which we'll be looking to adopt.
Great. Looking forward.
That's great. Thanks. And feel free to add something to the agenda, whether it's for next week or whenever you'd like to just add it to the agenda. And yeah,
I'll probably do it in a few weeks. We're about to actually have an internal hackathon focused on integrating with the CDEvent feed to kind of see what people come up with as use cases for it. So it'll be a good thing to kind of do after that. And I think that's happening about 2 weeks' time. So.
And then can we also record that meeting? I know people are going to be very curious in Apple to see that, especially like my managers and my higher ups are going to be like, hey, we want to see what you guys, you know, this demo of like these internal use cases, you know. So if we could record that where I could just like shimmy it off to them, be like, here, you know, do what you will with that, you know, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, they're all recorded. The meetings. Sorry, Owen, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say from my side, like we are 100% open about what we're doing. One of the advantages of being the person who defines the policies about what we're open with is I get to dictate it, which is nice. Small companies are great for that. So yeah, we can be completely open about anything.
Cool. Awesome. That's good
pretty
to hear.
Great. Yeah, and so we have this section of top topics for coming meeting. You feel free to add it there, and then once you know when it will happen, you can move it to the schedule, or yeah, as you please. Feel free to add it to here.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I should probably say it in the beginning of every meeting, but these meetings are always recorded. I hope everyone is fine with that, and recordings are uploaded into to YouTube. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Can we start linking the recordings in this document, do you think? Would that be easy to do?
Possibly, yeah, probably. I mean, there should be a playlist, a YouTube playlist. So if you want to have links to individual meeting, we can do it as well. It's a manual process, but that should be not a big thing to do. Well, I need to look for the link, but
yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah, I think just having it in this doc just makes it easy because, you know, this doc has a lot of context, you know, so I can be like, oh, this is when we did that demo, and click, you know, click, and makes it really, really easy. And then with that said, you know, if you can get me that link, Andrea, I can go ahead and start. I'll paste in all the video links here, because this is something that I want, more so for me, because like I said, I link to this doc to tons of people internally at Apple. And 9 times out of 10, you know, they'll be like, oh, what was the context from this comment? I'm like, oh, well, I have some idea, but if I have the actual video link also there, like they can click the video and easily get all the information that they need. So yeah, please give me that link when you get a chance.
Yep, I'll do. All right, I have to jump to the next meeting, but great to see everyone. Great discussion today, I think. And until next week, then.
All right, bye everyone.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.